I told him straight up, I'm just like, I didn't go to film school. Like, I can't really talk to you more than 40 seconds about lenses without exposing myself as a moron. But just like, I want to have it feel this kind of analog 70s feel. Like I want it to like look like a Neil Young record sounds, like that kind of thing. And so he's like, okay, mate, I'll figure that out. And then he came back and then he did it.
Hello, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America. In this episode, a valuable artifact throws a small South Dakota town into turmoil in director Tony Tost's dark Western comedy, Americana. The film follows a waitress with dreams of bigger and better things who teams up with a military veteran to gain possession of a mysterious and valuable artifact. They soon find themselves in the crosshairs of a ruthless criminal, an unrelenting Western antiquities dealer, and an ever-increasing list of pursuers as blood is shed to secure the relic. Americana is Tost's feature directorial debut. Following a screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Tost spoke with director Mimi Cave about filming Americana. Listen on for their spoiler-filled conversation.
How's everyone doing?
Yeah.
I was just outside with Tony, and I didn't say a thing about the movie because I wanted to save it for this conversation. But that film was so fun.
Okay.
Yeah, give him a round of applause. And I have written down some questions for you.
Okay. Yeah, I've written down answers, and we'll just check.
Yeah, we'll just go back and forth. Exactly. So I don't know if everyone knows that this is your first feature.
That's right. First time directing anything, really. Yeah.
It's pretty annoying because it's really good. It doesn't feel like a first feature at all to me. It feels like someone who really knows what they're doing. And I think obviously you're a writer first.
Yes.
And that shows as well. The dialogue is amazing. The structure is really great. And I'm kind of, maybe it's a basic question, but I really would love to know kind of where the idea came from for this and how it sort of developed. Yeah.
So, well, thank you. The idea I've been doing, I mostly work in TV. And I've been doing TV for a while. I knew I wanted to direct a feature because I'd been wanting to since I was a teenager. And the idea was a handful. It was like, okay, what's something on a scale that I can maybe get someone to finance. And I was also just thinking about the movies that made me fall in love with movies, and that was like a lot of that was like these '90s kind of indie ensemble films, Pulp Fiction's like a big obvious reference point, but things like, I don't know, John Sayles, Lone Star, or PTA had some, or Robert. This idea of not just or Jim Jarmusch is like huge for me, like Mystery Train and things like that. So like these kind of things where you're not following just one person. So I knew I kind of wanted to try to do that, and then I grew up in a really kind of rural setting in Washington State, bordering the Muckleshoot Indian Reservation in a single wide trailer, not unlike the one that Cal lives in, though I didn't kill my stepdad. I wanted to, but I didn't. And so like I knew I wanted to kind of like do, I don't know, like this kind of trailer park, like pull from like these experiences, and it's just, it was just something that felt like weirdly personal of doing a Western. That's probably my favorite genre, but it's also a genre I know that's kind of has a checkered history in terms of who it emphasizes and stuff like that. So I knew that there was maybe some fresh things I could do with the Western. So anyway, so it was all of these kind of things floating in my head, and then I had this opening sequence, which is the opening of the film of this white kid watching Westerns, identifying with the Native Americans to uncomfortable degree and kind of weaponizing that to kill his father figure. And so like so I wrote that, didn't know what to do with it. And then kind of built the rest of the story around that to kind of give it a bigger context. So it was a weird, it wasn't like I had an instant thought. I had these different impulses, these different kind of itches I wanted to scratch. And then I had this kind of weirdly autobiographical, but exaggerated narrative with the boy and the kind of traumatized mother and the isolated trailer out in the middle of nowhere and all that.
Yeah. Well, it's a great opening, and I feel like you can tell that it's very personal. Like it just feels like it's wrapped in so much nostalgia, and it's so, especially Cal's character, like he's so deeply funny because it's like to an uncomfortable degree, this obsession. And I love that the whole film, he's committed
he
to
does
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you said, you grew up in more of a rural area. And I've kind of noticed in your work, like you are kind of maybe drawn to some of this more Americana kind of like folk Western sort of. And I was kind of curious, what is it about that genre or characters that really draws you in? Yeah,
it's a weird thing. So like my background is this like trailer park, trailer kid. I was kind of like raised on Burt Reynolds, Clint Eastwood movies, pro wrestling, country music. Like that's kind of my cultural heritage. And then I went and did this weird side quest where I went and got like an MFA in poetry, got a PhD in English, wrote a book about Johnny Cash, had this kind of academic career going before I kind of swerved over to start doing this about 15 years ago. And I guess like I'm in this like kind of weird mission of trying to like reconcile those two halves of me in a weird way. Like I'm like this very pretentious redneck, and I'm trying to like take these materials that doesn't seem to feed too many other writer director types, like a lot of them don't have the same background as I do. But then I have this like dual citizenship where I'm like, I still love this stuff, but I can also be out of it critically and kind of see the warts, and I'm trying to kind of like fuse them in some way.
Yeah, that's great. I kind of, it's interesting hearing you say that because it kind of pieces together a lot for me about you as an artist in a way. And I think really makes your work more interesting because you have lived these other lives. And I feel like it's something, I don't know, I would suggest people do, have other experiences.
I do wish I'd made a movie at 25, but then, all these weird things. I mean, like Mimi and I worked together on Poker Face. So this is how we know each other, the TV show. And I think a big reason why I got that gig to showrun season 2 was because I'd done those types of, like, it's about this woman who kind of goes from town to town and works kind of, minimum wage type jobs. And like I've worked that was, I did those types of jobs for years and years and years. And so, I have this well of like experiences, this like, I think like this weird perspective that maybe is less and less common in terms of people with my kind of, class background, kind of telling TV and movie stories. So that is, I'm kind of like, I feel like, as someone who came from that world and is now in this world, like I do feel a little bit of a responsibility or like a draw to pull some of that stuff, onto screen, either in TV or movies.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a genre or genres that people really respond to, and in different parts of the US, especially, there's a deep well of nostalgia there. So, so tell me about the choice to do like the chapters in the movie. Is that something that was written on the page, or you found in editing? And
that was mostly on the page, and it was. I think I didn't realize until afterwards. I was like, oh yeah, I'm basically following Pulp Fiction.
Not a bad
thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I saw that like 7 times when it came out in theaters. Like, that was one of the main movies that made me want to do this. So of course it's in there but yeah, so it was just like, I had that opening section. And then at first, actually, I thought I was gonna try to like just do a series of like thematically related shorts, do something like Jarmusch's Night on Earth, or do something like Damon Zefron's Wild Tales, where it's, there's different discrete stories, and then, but all kind of in this kind of flyover world with this kind of vintage thing going on. And I thought I was going to like just try to bring back these like 70s type of stories that I missed. And so that's kind of how I went in. And then, maybe 2/3 in, I was like, oh, this can all be one story. And then the chapters thing kind of was just a way to give me permission to kind of almost drop a thread and pick it up at the next spot where I thought was the most interesting. Cause I also I do a fair amount of just straight feature work for hire. And you're really kind of melded to this 3-act through line with one main character. And I kind of wanted to get away from that too. And so the chapter thing was just a way for me to kind of like tell a mini story, let that go, let it kind of simmer there, move to another one, and then bring those characters in at whatever spot I thought was the most interesting. I could maybe have done it without the chapter thing, but it kind of gave me permission.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, I think for your first feature doing that's pretty complex writing and hard to do, I know. So I think you pulled it off really well. And so the opening scene with Cal was always the opening.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah. No, yeah. It was, yeah. And weirdly, came across it honestly, as opposed to trying to spice up the opening.
Yeah.
This was kind of my entry point into, and in the edit, I tried to tell it linear without that. And it felt a little flat to me. Like there was something, or it felt dishonest to the original impulse. And, so.
Well, so tell me now when you're like, okay, I'm going to direct this. Obviously you're a great writer, in terms of, being on set and doing a film. Are there things that you, maybe wish you had known before you had started, or things that surprised you about the process?
Yeah, there wasn't too many surprises. I was, having done a lot of TV was really, really I don't think I would have had the confidence to try to do it without it. Having an upper level writer and then show running, kind of, knowing the importance of prep, knowing the importance of really hiring, great department heads like Peter Etzweiler's our first AD who's here. Michael Williams, who's our line producer, who are here. Finding people that how important those relationships are. And then I think it also taught me when I started off in TV on set, I would speak in paragraphs to actors, which is not super helpful.
Oh, that's not how you do it.
Yeah, they don't the genealogy of the idea of the scene wasn't necessarily what they need in the moment. So I a lot of those dumb mistakes I got out of my system before I stepped onto the Americana set. But I did and directing action was probably the trickiest thing. I had worked a lot with actors and TV. On one TV show I did multiple seasons on, I was paired with a director who didn't like talking to actors. So he would always go hey, Tony, I think, this person wants someone to talk to him. Maybe it should be you. I was like, okay, I'll go. And that's how I kind of learned to kind of direct performance. But actually conceiving and pulling off and putting together an action sequence, that was a new thing for me. And and that's probably the thing that I'm coming in, I was the most nervous about whether or not cast and crew would just rebel against the first time, director.
They would just run off. We're not doing
oh,
this.
Fuck this guy. Yeah. Which they didn't do. And I was worried about the visuals, just wanting to have it not just be, pictures of people talking, but have some visual qualities. And then, and I should have been more nervous about the action sequences. And because I'm still not fully satisfied with those. I mean, I think they're okay, but I think I don't know. I didn't quite nail them to my full satisfaction.
Do you feel like you got enough curiosity out of that? So the next thing you do, you like really want to keep doing more action?
Yeah, I think so. And I think also just starting earlier in the process and really making sure like, you know, finding a stunt person who I can be really creative with and who can, you know, and
it's like a new language. I mean, it's
yeah,
a totally different part of it. That's like the same thing when you're saying, oh, I felt comfortable and confident because of TV. Yeah, it takes a minute.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was the biggest that was the biggest thing. But I felt like most of the other elements TV had prepared me pretty well for.
That's good. And in terms of the cast, I really love this cast. I think it's such a kind of eclectic mix of talent.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how it came together, or maybe who was, you know, how it kind of formed?
Yeah. So, I mean, my producer, Alex Sachs, who's wonderful, when she, you know, we knew it is kind of an odd duck story, flyover setting, neo-Western ensemble, first time director, like lots of reasons not to finance it. And so we just like, well, the reason to finance it if we can put together a really good cast. And so we kind of spent a good year putting together a talent package. But actually like mostly not the people in the movie. You know, like Halsey was part of that original package, and Zahn McClarnon, who plays Ghost Eye, was part of that original package. But I think that was it, because the other people we lost to scheduling conflicts. And so
Halsey was great, by the way.
Yeah, I think so too. I think she really stepped into that role, and she really felt connected to it. But yeah, so like that. So we put together just like this cool young cast. And then we got financing with that. And then we lost most of that cast. And then we put together like maybe an even better cast, you know, and, you know, we filmed this a couple of years ago. So like, you know, Sydney was still on her way up. She wasn't like, you know, cultural lightning rod, you know, and Paul Walter Hauser had, you know, he was in plenty of movies, but he wasn't in every summer movie like he is this summer, you know, and like Alex had worked with Simon Rex on Red Rocket, you know, and so we, you know, Sean Baker really, you know, put him back on the map. But like, yeah. And I'd worked with Zahn on Longmire, and yeah, it was just this kind of, I don't know, I'm kind of a character actor geek, you know? So I was as excited about getting Toby Huss as I was about getting everyone, you know, even though he just shows up for one scene. I just love like these men and women who walk in and just kind of steal a scene or two. Like I wanted to get as many of those as I could.
No, I mean, I think you nailed it. I think that the ensemble was great. I love Paul's lefty character. Like everyone seems so situated in their character in a way that really does feel like you're just kind of dropping into their lives. And in a way, we don't need all this backstory because it's just in the writing, in the dialogue, in the surroundings. Tell me about how I know, again, first feature, how you and your DP worked together in prep, like what that process was like for you.
Yeah, I mean,
Nigel, right?
Yeah, Nigel Block, who's wonderful. I'd love to work with again.
It looks great, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I really, really love that.
And we're, you know, I think Nigel shot it really well. You know, I told him straight up, I'm just like, I didn't go to film school. Like, I don't like, I can't really talk to you more than 40 seconds about lenses without exposing myself as a moron. But, you know, I really love the photography of William Eggleston's 1970s. Well, he's still alive, but he kind of came a national scene in the 70s, the Southern photographer. You know, really loved Paris, Texas, really asked him to look at Sugarland Express, White Lightning, this like Burt Reynolds movie from the early 70s, Two-Lane Blacktop. So I'm just like, I want to have it feel this kind of analog 70s feel. And I want it to feel like handmade, like not perfect, not slick. Like I want it to like look like a Neil Young record sounds, you know, like that kind of thing. And so he's like, okay, mate, I'll figure that out. And then he came back and then he did it, you know? So it was kind of a dream, you know? I mean, we worked really, you know, really shot listed, went out to locations, with some, stand-ins and figured out, some of the more complicated blocking. I asked him to like look at some Western films just when I wanted to kind of evoke the genre kind of overtly, on things like that. And then he was just a powerhouse in terms of, we were shooting with 2 cameras all the time and just figuring out on, for a first film, it was 26 days. So it was not super long, but it was, for a first film, that's pretty good. But like we were pretty ambitious for the number of locations and and everything we were trying to pull off. So his ability to, use 2 cameras all the time and have it really, have I think a visual kind of look or signature to it. I think that's, I kind of gave Nigel this kind of dream, and then the execution of it was really all I just leaned on him really heavily.
And you guys hadn't worked together before?
No.
Yeah. And so it was that sort of, were there a lot of people that you hadn't worked with before, or was few people that you kind of had comfort with?
Just a few people that, there's a few crew members who we shot in New Mexico who we worked with on Longmire. And then Zom McClarendon, who plays Ghost Eye, was on Longmire. We worked together. Joe Adler, who played Fun Dave, who gets stabbed with a screwdriver. I worked with him on a show.
Brutal.
Yes. But I think, and then our production designer, Russell Barnes, did the pilot of a TV show that I created. But other than that, it was pretty much all new folks. Yeah.
And how about the editing process? Is that someone you knew?
No, that was the first time Peter McNulty who edited it, and we just kind of, when I was talking to editors, I was in a really weird emotional place, and he was like this like kind, patient, almost therapist, and I'm just like spilling my guts to this guy over Zoom. And then somehow I was just like, I think that's a sign, and so we just kind of, we had a really good, honest language, and I, he's really patient with me in terms of, me being anxious at his elbow, sometimes being like, maybe Tony, maybe you can go for a walk, like let me, I'll work on this scene and then you can come back and see it,
Yeah,
all that. Like I was pretty lucky to be surrounded by some like patient people.
I recognize that behavior. Yeah, my editor does that to me too. It is really interesting, like that relationship between director and editor is so intimate.
Yeah.
And so, that feeling of comfort is important. And so I guess my other big question is when you were going into doing your first film, is there any advice that you received or that you either kind of like glommed onto, or you were like, nope, that didn't work for me?
Yeah, I think for better or worse, I did reach out to Greer Shepard, who's my showrunner on Longmire, who's really kind of my mentor. And ostensibly just to like run through her impression of the Longmire crew in New Mexico, and which people, I had my own opinions as like a staff writer, but from her opinion, like who are the people I should definitely maybe not put on the one list and stuff. But in the process of that, of just kind of talking it through, and I kind of learned a lot of how I want to carry myself from her. But I'm weirdly, I'm very, for better or worse, like kind of this like self-enclosed thing, like I made this like huge director Bible for myself and try to rewire my brain. I probably should have asked for more advice from directors, but actually,
wait, tell me about this director Bible. I want to know about this.
Well, I just, I kind of took the script and then would just notate like just shot ideas and performance notes and stuff, and then started putting in reference photos. I did a research trip in South Dakota on my own, just kind of driving around. And so things like that, and then just shot ideas. And it ended up being like this 500-page, big, huge thing that then we used during prep. But for me, it was just, I was so nervous about just the transition from being a writer, making things work on the page to making things work on the screen. It was really just me trying to like rewire my brain to think visually and look at my script as if I had no hand in writing it. I had no investment other than how to make it work. And I just kind of, like there's been some TV shows I worked on where we had little mini Bibles that were helpful. And so I kind of took this approach of like, okay, I should prep myself in the way that I've tried to like, in the best of circumstances, prep visiting directors on TV shows in a way of just like, here's a few visual key points, or, here's like on Americana, like, and we were at the tail end of COVID, but I also like, so we had limited amount of background extras we could have, but I had reference photos from like Jim Jarmusch films and also from Bad Day at Black Rock, just to show how like there's very limited amount of extras in shots. And then there's also like just in the frame, the blocking, there's a real physical distance. And this idea of like wanting to get the sense of like kind of loneliness and kind of isolation, and just have it kind of try to like seep into the movie that way. And so like, it's just things like that. It was just helpful to just like, here's where these ideas are coming from. This is kind of, when we're on set, or if I'm referencing to something, what I want more of, like, I can point to that. And so it was just that kind of deal.
I'm going to try that.
It's fun.
Mine's just all in my head. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I feel like I do a similar version of that, but much more chaotic.
Yeah.
And we only have a couple minutes left. So I guess if you were to talk to someone and they were going to ask you to be their mentor, to do their first feature, is there anything you would be like, do blank?
Yeah. I mean, I think my kind of attitude was just like, things are going to go wrong inevitably, in ways that you can't even dream of anticipating. But like, yeah, like the more that you prep, like the more that you prep and the more that you prepare, the more you can let go and the more you can, improvise on set, and the more you can let go, actually weirdly, the more like, like I knew there's going to be things that I was going to get wrong the first time, but it wouldn't be because of a lack of preparation. And so like, for me, like that was, like whatever that version is for somebody, like that to me is key. Like, and then just the more things I'd thought through, the more I put into that, big document, the more I felt a little bit freer to listen to other people in a weird way and less defensive, and a little bit had my feet underneath me. So I think as a first time director, that's probably not terrible advice.
Prep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone here, and great job, Americana.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. The Director's Cut is available wherever you listen to podcasts. And please share, subscribe, rate, and review. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow film buffs find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America.